Welcome back to my channel. It's the boy in blue back with another video. So as promised, I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of the pairings from the Archie series that I like or dislike and things like that. Here I will be primarily focusing on Archie's relationships, particularly those with Veronica, Betty, and then a little bit on Cheryl Blossom. And then I might elaborate on some of the other Archie Comics related pairings if I can think of any. There are only so many that I have a lot of like a first-hand experience of like reading and whatnot. Anyway, I primarily ship Archie and Veronica because I like Veronica more than Betty because I think that she's more interesting. I like that she has more of a fight to her because, like I mentioned in my previous video about Archie and about his character, he is a sweet guy. Like he is a sweet guy with a good heart, and he's known to do nice things for people in general, not just pretty girls. And he doesn't just do things to get a date or to get attention or to get something. Sometimes he just does things because he's a nice person, and that naturally makes him very attractive and lovable to a lot of people and to a lot of girls like Betty. That's probably the main reason why Betty is in love with him. And I also feel that that's also one of the reasons why Veronica is in love with him, because she, in my opinion, is also in love with him. At least prior to this relaunch of the series that they did, I know that they did a recent reboot that looks really good. I actually want to read it, but I'll check that out eventually. But as for like the long-standing comics, right before that and everything like that, Veronica is very much in love with Archie, just like Betty is, which is why she fights for him just as much as Betty does, if not more. Now, while, like I said, while Archie is a nice guy, he is also a shameless flirt. He flirts a lot. He'll flirt with girls, or he'll stare at girls while on a date with Betty or Veronica. He's been known to drop Betty to go seek out Veronica, and then sometimes vice versa. If Veronica does something to kind of like put him off, or if she's kind of like being distracted or like not as like engaged in the date, he's been known to occasionally like drop Veronica to seek out Betty. Usually he'll like make up some kind of excuse because usually she doesn't take his shit. That's the main reason why I like Veronica as like being an option for Archie, because she, unlike Betty, does not take his shit. Like she stands up for herself. Like she stands up for what she feels is right and everything like that. And he has to like fight for her. He has to like fight to be with her. Betty, while I like Betty, I definitely like Betty, and I understand the importance of her character, and I understand why she's there and everything like that. I don't think that she's like a waste of space or anything like that. I don't think that she's not worthy of love, or like that she's even not good for Archie. Like she's obviously a very good option for Archie. And the only reason why she's not the best option for Archie is because she's way too accommodating. She will bend over backwards for him. She lets him run all over her. He'll have her do all kinds of stuff for him. She'll like cook for him, clean for him. She'll probably help him with like his chores. I've read, in the digest, in the comics, like I've seen her do a lot for him. And I'm like, Betty, do you want this boy to respect you? You have got to stand up for yourself. You've got to tell him to like try to do for you for a change, take you out for a change, put you first for a change. I'm like, girl, you can't be playing house with this dude. You can't be like acting like his wife if he's gonna be running off chasing after Veronica Lodge, Cheryl Blossom, or some other girl in town, and he's been known to date various girls like at random. Like he's always shown going gaga, goo-goo-eyed over some random girl walking by like in a bikini whenever they're at the beach, or in general just like a girl walking by like minding her own business. He's just like drooling, often in front of Betty in particular. Usually he tries not to do that in front of Veronica because she'll tell him about himself, but he's done it there too. She's just more likely to like tell him about himself and be like, look, you are with Veronica Lodge. You gonna appreciate that. And that's part of why I like it, because while he is a nice guy, he has his flaws, and Veronica knows those flaws, and she is not afraid to tell him about himself. She's not afraid to tell him, look, you're gonna need to get it together, Archie Andrews. Like, yes. And some people feel like, oh, like, she's such a bitch, like, she's rude, she's this, she's that. And to a large degree, yeah, she is a lot of those things. She's not a perfect character. She's not, your perfect girl. And in a lot of ways, neither is Betty, because her main flaw is that she does way too much for Archie. She's a pushover. Like, she just will bend over backwards for him. She'll, like, break her own neck to save his ass. And I'm like, girl, you need to grow a backbone. Like, you're amazing. Like, just find someone else. Which is why I usually support her dating other guys. She's shown to date what was her? She has Adam. That's her other boyfriend, Adam, who has popped up a lot in the comics, especially like in her series. She has her own like self-titled series, or she did. I don't know if it's still around. I have to like go to a comic book store and like see. I never really seek out Archie anymore. I should pick those back up. But anyway, yeah, Adam, I've seen Adam in like a lot of her comics, and he's like a really nice guy who's really only mainly into her, and they have like a really nice, sweet relationship, and I usually support them dating. I'm like, girl, yes, now you have another option. You give Archie a taste of his own medicine, finally. Like, yes. She'll date him, and then sometimes she'll date Jason Blossom, the twin brother of Cheryl Blossom, which is an interesting thing. Or like, I don't think did they actually date? Because I know he's not really into townies. He considers them, like, all the Riverdale kids townies. But yeah, I know he was into her a lot. He was more into her than Veronica, who was into him. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I don't really much prefer Betty with Archie because she does too much for him. She's just always doing the most, and it's just not a nice thing to see. I just feel like I don't feel like necessarily he's taking advantage of her, but I do feel like she does more. She does way more for him than he does for her, especially for the fact that he usually spends his like hard-earned money because he has to work for a living. He'll like have to, or like his allowance, like he'll work like doing chores and stuff for extra money or whatever. I don't know if he's actually ever had a part-time job. I think sometimes maybe he has, I'm not sure. But, oh yeah, no, he has. He's worked, like, at the mall. He's worked as, like, a mall Santa quite a few times in the comics. He's worked at, like, random, like, department stores and stuff. He's been shown working to, like, make money because he's supposed to be, like, your average, like, wholesome teenage boy that, like, represents Americans or something. I don't know. I think I'm treading into different territory. Let's bring it back. Anyway, he works for a living, and oftentimes he'll spend his hard-earned money to try to take Veronica Lodge on a night on the town, which is sad for Betty because she does for him a lot. But at the same time, it's like, girl, ain't nobody forced you to. You ain't gotta do that. Ain't nobody made you do nothing. You chose to because you loved a boy, and you don't know how to like say no to him. Betty, get it together. Date Adam or Jason. Preferably Adam, but whatever. I always wanted her to date the Jughead too, but I don't really, actually no, I take that back. I prefer Jughead to be like by himself. I always consider him to be asexual. That would actually be a really interesting thing. He's actually been mentioned as being asexual in like some of the things. I don't know if it's ever been in the main comics, but I know in like some of the other comics he's been mentioned as being asexual. And then some people interpret him and have interpreted him in his like ambivalence towards girls as him being gay. I don't see that, but people have their opinions, I guess. But yes, I much prefer Archie with Veronica because she is more likely to put him in his place. It's more of like, I want to say it's almost more of an equal thing of them like kind of seeking each other out, but it's more on his part to him to try to get to her than she ever like does for him. Usually it's really easy for her to get a date from him if ever he's not seeking her out, which is most of the time. But yeah, their relationship is more interesting. And another main reason why I ship Archie and Veronica so much, which isn't so much to do with their love and the way that they feel about each other, but has to do with like their families and how they would what would happen if they got married. And it's the whole Hiram situation of like Veronica's dad becoming his father-in-law. It would just be so glorious. His reaction and just being like, no, the nightmare has materialized. It would just be so fantastic. And I love Hiram. I just would love that whole situation of like, no, you were supposed to marry Betty and leave Veronica alone. Also, another reason why I always preferred Archie and Veronica is because sometimes, it depends on the situation, but most times I don't really like your average or like the most like obvious choice of certain things. Like I don't always go for the obvious pairings or the obvious choice. And between Betty and Veronica, given the way that they're presented most of the time, Betty is the obvious choice because she's also beautiful, she's also sexy to a degree. Not as much as Veronica because she doesn't have Veronica's confidence and everything like that, and she doesn't have Veronica's self-worth to her degree. I know Betty has self-worth. I'm not saying she doesn't have it or like confidence, but I just know that she bends over backwards for Archie the way Veronica will not. But anyway, Betty is the obvious choice because she's the sweet one, she's the kind one, she's the one that everyone loves and adores because she's super sweet, super awesome. She's like the Mary Sue of the world, kind of. Again, she's the only thing that makes her not perfect is what she does for Archie constantly. That's like her only flaw because otherwise she's smart, she has good grades, she is amazing at like domestic work, she's amazing, she's an amazing cook. She's good at cleaning. She doesn't mind cooking or cleaning. She is skilled with like most random skills. She knows cars. Like that's something else that has been pretty consistent with her character is that she understands cars because I believe her dad or someone taught her about cars. Like there was a storyline where she like was trying to buy like a used car, and a used car salesman tried to like sell her some bullshit car, and she like looked at the hood. It was like, nah, we're not getting that one. We're gonna get this one. And he's like, oh, are you sure? And she's like, yep, we're gonna get that one, which I loved. Also, she's athletic. She's shown to be a part of many sports. She's very capable physically. She's in very good shape. And she's gorgeous. Like we see occasions. Usually, she dresses like pretty. What's the word I want to use? I don't want to say tomboyish, but she will, like, definitely to Veronica's, like, in comparison to Veronica, yes, more tomboyish. Like, she'll dress way more low-key than Veronica most of the time because she doesn't have the money and because she doesn't really care about her appearance as much as Veronica, who is, like, very fashion conscious and everything like that. And she's always, like, glamming it up and looking amazing. Veronica very rarely looks low-key, except like in situations where they kind of like I think there may have been like a body swap situation where they like swapped bodies, and then there was a situation where I think they were either dared to live in the other one's shoes, where Veronica had to go live with like with Betty's family, and then vice versa. Betty had to learn how to like live like a rich girl and like live by those standards and everything like that, and she had to like dress and look like Veronica with like her hair down and stuff. And then when that happened, Archie was all about her, which was interesting. And then Betty had to learn how to like toil and like work hard and stuff. It was really funny. And I think there was a situation where she posed as like one of Betty's, or like she's swapped places with Betty, and she was like living with like her cousins from like one of Betty's cousins from like the South or something like that, and she had to like put her hair in a ponytail, like help them work and stuff, and then she helped them save like their farm or whatever, or like with their finances, because she knows money very well. She's like, look, if you just like I'll help you balance these books and you'll be okay. And they're like, okay, girl, all right, she got us right with these finances, go girl. I don't remember which one that was. I'm gonna have to just like dive into my comic box and see if I could find it. It was a really good one. Man, fucking love Archie. Anyway, so yeah, between Betty and Veronica, I've always preferred Archie with Veronica. She's more interesting. The family situation would be way more interesting because Betty's parents are just like Archie's parents. You know, they're nice, you know, working class. people and everything like that. Like they're very low key. But like Hiram is the most interesting out of all of their parents, out of all of the older people in the entire comics, in my opinion. And so yeah, and it's already his fear for Archie to end up with Veronica, like on a serious level, like for them to get married. So yeah, it would just be glorious. So yes, that's why I need to like read the whole like Archie marries series and just see how that unfolds. And then also Archie is known to date Cheryl Blossom on occasion. I haven't seen too much of that. I do have comics with her in them, digests, and then like comics with her in them. She's not the nicest girl to like Betty and Veronica, but she is nice to Archie. Like she's really, she's not. I said before that she was sexual. I meant sexy. She's just like really sexy, but she has a really like effortless sex appeal to her and everything like that. I'm trying to figure out like how her relationship with Archie is. Like, is she nicer to him than Veronica? I think she is. I think some people might consider her like somewhat of a middle ground between Betty and Veronica, and that she's also glamorous and beautiful and like rich and snobbish like Veronica, but she also, you know, knows how to like, I guess kind of be nice like Betty in a way, but never quite as much. Also, Cheryl is actually friends with Betty. Just kidding. She's rivals with Veronica, real tough. She's like Archie and Reggie, but not even like friends. Like they're not friends at all. Like she's rivals with Veronica. They're like rivals bordering enemies. Like they are not cool. But she's friends with Betty. Cheryl and Betty are friends. And Veronica is very jealous of that friendship. Because Betty is Veronica's best friend. So yeah. And then of course, once I dive into those books, I will see how Archie and Valerie's relationship will be and like what her relationship with Archie is like in comparison to Betty and Veronica and then I guess Cheryl. I'm gonna have to figure out how the hell his relationship with Cheryl even is, because I rarely even see them actually dating. I just see him like pursuing her and she's usually into him. Like she's definitely into Archie, but like I never really see how they interact like as like a sort of couple. Like, I don't know. But I mean, sometimes Archie's like really sweet to Betty. Like he dates her, like they're together sometimes, but they're like more friends than he is with like Veronica. Like he and Veronica are never just friends, but he and Betty are sometimes kind of just friends, but they date sometimes. She's almost like a friend with benefits, but I don't think they have sex. I'm pretty sure they just like make out. He's like the best friend that she's like the best friend that he makes out with, is kind of how I see it. She's totally in love with him, but I think that he is like attracted to her, but he just, yeah, I don't know. I think that he just doesn't really take her seriously because of how much she does for him and how available she makes herself to him. I think that's part of the problem, is that she makes herself way too available for him. That's another thing. She will drop everything for Archie at the drop of a dime. Like, it's like, oh, Archie needs me? Like, she will fly across the earth to save his ass. Like, if someone were to throw something at him, like if it was like a pie or something, like she would dive, like do that slow motion dive just in time to get splat in the face to save him. Like yes. That's why I'm just like, girl, nah, you got to know that he will not appreciate you until you get your life together. But no, yeah, that's just kind of how I feel about that. Yeah. I read, however, when I first heard about the Archie marrying Veronica thing, that came out first. Like, let me tell you, that actually came out first. That storyline, Archie marrying Veronica, came before Archie marrying Betty. And it was supposed to be canon. It was supposed to be like in all the things that he finally chose and that it was Veronica. And then they said, I guess some of the writers or whatever said, oh, like, we actually always intended for Archie to end up with Veronica. We always pictured Betty ending up with like Jughead or someone else. but particularly like Jughead, like because Jughead has mentioned before that Betty's like the one girl that he would not like turn down like a kiss or whatever, like that he would actually date. Like Betty's the one girl that he actually kind of likes, or that he like sees almost like on that level or whatever. Like she's the one girl who could get it. I basically feel like that's what he feels. And then that's what they were supposedly intending. But then of course they came out concurrently with Archie marrying Betty, and then they have like a concurrent series of married life with Archie, of him like being married to Veronica, and then him being married to Betty, and then now I guess they have one with Valerie as well. What should I call it? I'm surprised they don't have one with Cheryl, which is interesting because she's usually the third option between the two of them. But yeah, that's how I usually feel about the situation. I prefer him to be with Veronica, but if not Veronica, then Cheryl, because it just shouldn't be Betty. Betty is just, she does too much for him. She needs to like be with someone else who appreciates her just a little bit more. Or rather, not. I don't think that he doesn't appreciate her, because he'll thank her. He'll do stuff for her. Like he's a good friend to her and everything like that. I just think that she's into him more than he's into her, and I also think that or rather, he's into her. He's definitely into her, but he's just like not as into her as she's into him. Like she's in love with him, like head over heels to the moon in love with him, and he is like in love with Veronica, her to a degree, and everyone. Like it's never just anyone for any one girl for him. But anyway, yeah. What was I going to say? Wait, what was I going to say? Oh, I totally forgot what I was going to say. Did it have something to do with Valerie or Cheryl? Oh well, easy come, easy go. I'll probably remember when I rewatch this, and review it. But, yeah. I prefer him with Veronica. Yeah, if it can't be Veronica, it should be Cheryl. She's probably the next best thing, and she too could put him in his place and everything like that. Keep him on his toes, keep him honest, all that good stuff. And I assume Valerie might be the same as well. I just love the name Valerie. It's so pretty. Let's see. Well, sometimes I go out by myself and I look across the water. I said I wasn't going to sing on these. My bad. I just got bored for 3.5. But anyway, yes, Archie and Veronica are definitely my OTP for that. Other pairings that tend to happen in the Archie comics tend to be more consistent. Like, for example, Chuck and Nancy are like a very consistent relationship since like their inception. They've always been together. In fact, they have very little character development of outside of each other. I know that Nancy is usually shown to hang out with Betty and Veronica rather than with like the rest of the gang, unless they're all together, like boys and girls. But whenever it's just the girls, Nancy is usually among them. They are known to hang out with Nancy and Midge. It's usually like the four of them together, like as like a female posse. And then sometimes they'll also include Ethel. Ethel Muggs, I believe is her last name. Also known as Big Ethel. She's like really tall, and she's usually portrayed as being like unattractive, and she's like head over heels in love with Jughead, and Jughead is not here for it at all, and it's like comical the way she chases after him and he's like running away from her and everything like that. But yeah, she's like all about him. She's obsessed with him. And then the boys, it's usually like Archie, Jughead, of course, right-hand man. Reggie's usually in there, and then it'll be Chuck, or it'll be like Moose, or it'll be Dilton. Sometimes it's all of them, like all of them together. And then I guess now also it'll include Kevin. And then I think also with the girls, like Ginger will hang out with them. And then Cheryl, I don't think she hangs out with all of them together. I think she only really hangs out with like Betty. I think that's like her only friend, unless she also hangs out with Ginger. I'm not sure. I've never. Well, I mean, I haven't read too many comics with Cheryl in it. She's kind of like an infrequent. She's a recurring character. Like she's not really in it as much as certain people. I only really see her interact with Veronica as a rival, with Betty as a friend, and with Archie as a love interest, and then of course her twin brother Jason. And then sometimes other boys will seek her out. Of course, like Reggie is all about her and everything like that. I think. I'm not sure. I think he would be. She's hot. Why wouldn't he be? And yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I hope that Veronica and Archie have great chemistry on the show. I hope that they are shown to be a very, viable romantic option and that fans respond to it well so that I don't have any fuckery going on like I have had in Vampire Diaries and Smallville, Veronica Mars, Arrow, The Flash, all that. I just don't want any more. Like, can we please get it together? If you're going to use pre-existing stuff, just have them be with the ones who were the ones. Or just have them be falling over, like, random girls too, but, like, still mainly be into, like, Veronica and Betty and Cheryl and Valerie. I think also because they announced her first, Josie, I think they're probably going to try to put Archie with Josie. I don't think she's going to have her boyfriend in the show. Especially since she's like, or like they're all like a part of, I think, Riverdale High. I don't know. Did they even go to high school together in the comics? I don't think so. I've only ever really seen them interact a few times. Excuse me. Whenever, usually as Josie and the Pussycats in their band, like, and then sometimes their band will, like, do musical numbers with them or something or whatever. Or they'll be a part of, like, singing competition. I don't know. I don't know. I just know that there's a lot riding on this show for me as an Archie fan. And watching this show, I have a lot of expectations. I'm very curious to see what happens. I hope that it goes well. I hope that it's amazing. If they decide to go the Archie or Afterlife with Archie route, I hope that that's amazing as well, because it's actually really awesome, although I don't know how hard they can go, because it's a CW show. But I mean, we have iZombie, but it's pretty light. It's not as extreme as it could be, but they have their moments. They have some pretty gruesome deaths in there, and like stuff going on with like brains and zombie stuff. Which is also an amazing show. iZombie is so good. Please watch it. Please watch it. It's one of the shows that the CW usually gets right. Because even there, sometimes things just don't make sense. But very rarely. iZombie is one of their better shows. Trust me. It's amazing. It's worth it. Vampire Diaries for me is a guilty pleasure. Because it's so shitty. Especially now. I'm just like, oh God. This last season was so bad for me. I'm just like, shit. I was so hoping that with Elena gone, that this show was going to be amazeballs without all that stupid drama going on. But no, it gets worse. Because Damon's crying every 4 seconds over the loss of Elena. And I'm just like, dude, what the fuck? You're a vampire and you know she's coming back eventually. Like, shut up. You get to live forever. Just shut up. Anyway. Sorry. I slipped back into Vampire Diaries once again. But it's their fault. It's their fault for doing Archie on the CW. You know, they could have did it on something else, but whatever. I guess it makes the most sense, but yeah. Archie and Veronica. Or Valerie. Or Cheryl. Just not Betty. Sorry. Betty and Adam, or Betty and Jason. Hell, I'll even take Betty and Reggie. If like, you know, it means that he's kind of cooler, I guess. But just not Archie and Betty. Peace.